Good evening, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. For our top stories, we have the President of the Swiss Confederation, Viola Amherd, arrived in Mongolia on a state visit. U.S. Secretary of State welcomed by Mongolian President during his brief visit to Ulaanbaatar. Secretary of State Blinken says U.S. policy in the Indo-Pacific region is not just about China. For other news, stay tuned. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs. On the invitation of the President of Mongolia, the President of the Swiss Confederation, Viola Amherd, arrived in Mongolia on a state visit. President Viola Amherd and the delegation accompanying her were met at Genghis Khan International Airport by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Batsitsik, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Swiss Confederation in Mongolia, Yurk Buri, and other officials. The visit is the first state visit from the Swiss Confederation at the level of President. It is unique in that it is being carried out as part of the 60th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relations between the two countries. Diplomatic relations between Mongolia and the Swiss Confederation were established on May 22, 1964, and the countries are linked by friendly relations and cooperation. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Mongolian Prime Minister Oyerkin Losnamstra in Ulaanbaatar. The two also watched a Nadam celebration that included traditional singing, dancing, and athletic events. This marks Secretary Blinken's 18th trip to the Indo-Pacific region since assuming office, emphasizing the importance of U.S. engagement in advancing security, prosperity, and a shared vision for a free and open region. Secretary Blinken's visit will reaffirm the critical work the United States undertakes with its allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific. In Mongolia, Secretary Blinken held meetings with other senior Mongolian officials to underscore the importance of the U.S.-Mongolia strategic partnership. Discussions mostly focused on strengthening democratic institutions, upholding fundamental freedoms, enhancing security and national sovereignty, and expanding economic and people-to-people ties. Acting State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, Muhtushik Khanajau, received the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Kazakhstan to Mongolia, Gabit Koyshibayev, on July 30, 2024. Acting State Secretary Muhtushik noted that the cooperation and relations between Mongolia and Kazakhstan are an important part of Mongolia's foreign policy towards Central Asia. Mr. Muhtushik expressed his commitment towards strengthening the traditional friendly relations between Mongolia and Kazakhstan and developing close trade, economic, and investment cooperation. The two sides exchanged views on bilateral relations, cooperation, and high-level visits to be held soon, and deepening the cooperation between Mongolia and Kazakhstan in the international and regional arena. The Tavanbog Group opened the second Fujifilm Nura AI Health Screening Center in Mongolia on August 1, 2024. The newly established Nura Mongolia Zasen Center can screen 30,000 to 40,000 individuals annually using AI-powered technologies of Fujifilm Corporation, the world leader in medical devices. Fujifilm Corporation has opened 6 Nura centers across Mongolia, Japan, the Republic of India, and the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. In less than a year of operation, the first Nura Mongolia Center, which opened in September 2023, has already served 15,000 clients, identifying over 500 potential cancer cases and referring them to specialized hospitals for further treatment. Clients at the Nura Mongolia Center are predominantly women, 58%. Age-wise, participants range from 18 to 102 years old, with the majority falling within the 30 to 64 age group. This indicates a strong engagement of younger individuals in early detection efforts in Mongolia. Leveraging artificial intelligence, the Nura Mongolia Center can screen for the most common cancers and lifestyle-related chronic diseases in Mongolia within an average of 2 hours. A set of 32 tests for early detection and diagnosis are performed with an accuracy rate of 99.7%, revolutionizing the healthcare industry. A total of 300 medical staff are serving clients at the two Nura Mongolia centers. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Mongolian President Dokhnagin Khurelsukh on Thursday in Ulaanbaatar. With large parts of the world in turmoil and deep uncertainty over the future direction of America's global role, Blinken has sought this week to project an aura of calm as he traveled throughout Asia on his first overseas mission since President Joe Biden jolted the 2024 presidential race with his withdrawal. During his meeting with Khurelsukh, Blinken said, "Thank you for this warm welcome, and let me first bring greetings from President Biden and Vice President Harris." His trip to Laos, Vietnam, Japan, the Philippines, Singapore, and Mongolia was punctuated by several potential concerning developments in the Middle East, an uptick in Russian attacks in Ukraine, and overshadowed by persistent fears about China's increasingly aggressive actions. Blinken could not escape questions and comments about domestic U.S. politics. Having embarked on a six-nation tour just days after Biden's decision, Blinken no doubt would have preferred to avoid the issue entirely, but came prepared with several stock answers to questions about U.S. leadership from concerned partners and allies. Blinken has argued that no matter who occupies the White House, there are several constants that don't fundamentally change irrespective of who wins a particular election. The main one, he said, is that most Americans want to be engaged with the rest of the world, taking a real jab at Trump's America First mantra that caused major angst among U.S. allies, particularly in Europe, Japan, and South Korea in his first term. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Mongolian Foreign Minister Batsitsik Batmung on Thursday in Ulaanbaatar. He said that while U.S. relationships in Asia have a military component, the goal of U.S. policy is to grow opportunities. It's a vision for an open, for a connected, for a free, for a prosperous, and for a resilient region, he noted.
The United States and Mongolia are also working together closely on shared regional and global challenges. That includes the DPRK's missile launches. The United States appreciates Mongolia's willingness to promote peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula.
At a news briefing, Blinken was asked how he would explain to China's leaders that the U.S. policy in the Indo-Pacific region was not aimed at suppressing China. Blinken said there are areas where China and the U.S. compete and others where they can and have cooperated.
With regard to China and to the region, first, our focus is on a shared affirmative vision for the region, not about China, but about the many countries that we're working with who have this shared vision. And as I said, it's a vision for an open, for a connected, for a free, for a prosperous, for a resilient region. And the relationships that we have, yes, there are military components to many of them, but that is only one part of the story. And fundamentally, we're about doing everything we can together to enhance opportunity for people in the United States and people in these countries, to find ways to grow our economies.
And here are the currency exchange rates provided by the Mong's Bank. Now let's pay attention to the international news provided by our partner agencies. The U.S. government on Thursday released video showing 3 U.S. prisoners freed as part of a U.S.-Russia prisoner swap boarding a plane in Turkey to take them home. Moscow released journalists Ivan Gershkovich and Alsu Kirmashova and fellow American Paul Whelan, along with dissidents including Vladimir Kara-Murza, in a multinational deal that set 24 people free. The trade unfolded despite relations between Washington and Moscow being at their lowest point since the Cold War after Russian President Vladimir Putin's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Negotiators in back-channel talks at one point explored an exchange involving Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, but after his death in February, ultimately stitched together a 24-person deal that required significant concessions from European allies, including the release of a Russian assassin and secured freedom for a cluster of journalists, suspected spies, political prisoners, and others. President Joe Biden trumpeted the exchange, by far the largest in a series of swaps, with Russia as a diplomatic feat while welcoming families of the returning Americans to the White House. But the deal, like others before it, reflected an innate imbalance. The U.S. and allies gave up Russians charged or convicted of serious crimes in exchange for Russia releasing journalists, dissidents, and others imprisoned by the country's highly politicized legal system on charges seen by the West as trumped up. Under the deal, Russia released Gershkovich, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal who was jailed in 2023 and convicted in July of espionage charges that he and the U.S. government vehemently denied. The paper's editor-in-chief Emma Tucker called it a joyous day. Also released was Whelan, a Michigan corporate security executive jailed since 2018, also on espionage charges he and Washington have denied. And Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty journalist Alsu Kirmashova, a dual U.S.-Russian citizen convicted in July of spreading false information about the Russian military, accusations her family and employer have rejected. And here's the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you on Monday with more stories and updates. Please follow MNB World on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.